will describe as I go along some of the techniques that I've used. First, we'll pick a picture. As usual, I'll be using my Faber Castell pencils. This is the 36 box. I've collected a lot more since then, so I've got about 80 or 90 pencils. So I will be using pencils that don't appear in the 36 box. And I think today I will do the butterfly. Okay, first off, a piece of paper to protect the page that happens next, which happens to be the rhino. Let's begin. Start off with the deep cobalt green for background. We'll switch to a speed colouring now, as this entire picture took me around about 5 hours to do. So as you can see, I've started a little bit of work with the deep cobalt green, and then I switched to the light phthalo green just to lay in a little bit where the darker area bleeds into that lighter area. Now I'm doing several layers with the dark cobalt green here. You really can't get a completely dense thick layer, and I don't think you really want to when it comes to these grayscale pictures, as you want some of the picture to show through. So I'm going over about 2 or 3 times with sort of first light and then a medium pressure, and I'm using the light phthalo green to blend it into that pale area. I'm moving around the picture here to complete all of the background colour which I've chosen. You could choose any colour you like, but I thought these colours would work well with this picture, as I want to use a lot of oranges on the wings of the butterfly and some pink amongst the flowers. For the background flowers, I'm going for the magenta and the pink madeleine. I wanted cooler coloured pinks, so it helps to recess those particular flowers into the background. I'm leaving a little white margin between the magenta, that light magenta, and the light phthalo green. And I'm blending it in very softly so that it looks like it's a kind of out of focus, distanced look. And that'll contrast with the sharpness of the butterflies and the flower in the front. Here I'm building up different layers of the light magenta and the pink matted lake, and I think I'm throwing in, that would be the crimson, to take in some of the shadows. Now those distant flowers are a little bit hazy, it's very difficult to see any detail with them, so I had to look particularly hard to discern from that sort of mass of grey the lighter spots and the darker spots to bring out some definition. Now I've moved on to the butterfly wing. I think I started this with the cadmium orange, and I decided that it would be a blend of colours that would go from the cadmium yellow, dark chrome yellow, the cadmium orange and the dark cadmium orange. So as you can see, the very top of the wings is the cadmium yellow, and it moves down, so the very deepest orange is the dark cadmium orange. Now I've switched to the black. As you can see, the Faber Castell Polychromos black is very dark. It gives really bright, intense lines there. Now the reason I'm using this last is if I used it first and then I went over and tried to fill in the lighter colours, I would be dragging that black into the lighter areas and make it all very smudgy and dirty. So the black is best left till last. With the white areas on the wings, I've used a Prismacolor pencil. And the reason I've switched from a Polychromos to a Prismacolor is the Prismacolors tend to be a little bit more opaque, so they give a nicer, brighter white than the Polychromos pencils, which are a little bit translucent. Both are good in, depending on what you want to use them for, but I think for this I really wanted a more opaque white, so I just switched to that. Every other pencil I've used in here are the Polychromos pencils. I really did enjoy doing all this black detail. I think the pictures in this book that I like best are those that do have lots of little black details, because they contrast so sharply with the bright colours. I think it looks really nice. As you know, with the leopard, which is the first picture I did in this book, I really enjoyed adding all the black detail. It makes the picture pop a lot. Here I've used a Payne's grey as well as the black, so it looks like the sun's hitting the sides of the wings there. in certain spots where the veins go through it. I think I also used the cool grey 6 as well. Here I'm adding a little bit more white, and I've gone back to the brighter, lighter yellow for the underside of this wing. This is a really relaxing thing to do, part of colouring to do. Everything's sort of all set out for you. The greyscale automatically gives you your shadows. All you've really got to do is add the colour. Again, lots of little details with the wings. You should make sure that your pencil is very sharp for all these tiny little details. Now coming up to a part of the wing where the sun hits the scales on the wing, and it makes a little speckled effect. And the way that I recreated that using the pencil is to just go over it very lightly and allow the texture of the paper to show through, and that helped imitate the scale effect that was already given by the grayscale underneath. So you can see there's a bit of light reflecting on the black, but you can still see that it's a black wing. Now I've moved back to those flowers in the back. As you can see, I prefer to start these pictures on the top left-hand corner and work my way down. That's because I'm right-handed. Now if I do that, there's less chance I'm going to smudge up all the pencils. And with nice soft pencils like the Polychromos, you can smudge them if you move the back of the hand around them. And I'm a bit of a messy artist, so if anybody's going to smudge something, I'm going to smudge it. Here again, I'm working on picking out the slight differences in the grey colouring in that sort of like blob of whitey grey at the back, and trying to give it some form and shape so it suggests the leaves or the petals of a flower. But I don't want them in tight focus, as I want to make them look like they're in the distance. So it's all very sort of blended in and very dreamy, smoky sort of look. So just the suggestion that there are flowers in the background out of focus, so that the butterfly and the flowers in the front pop out at being in focus. And I've picked the pink colours because the pink contrasts really nicely with the green, the greenish kind of dark green, bluey background. It makes all the front details in the front of the picture pop out. Now into the butterfly itself, and again you'll need to have your pencil sharp for this. I'm using a lot of the black, I'm also using the Payne's grey and a little bit of the cool greys, mainly the cool grey number 4 on this. Now as I was doing it, I thought it's going to look a little bit dull in relation to the rest of the picture, because the butterfly is only in the black and white, and I thought, well, how if I chuck a little bit of yellow along the thorax? So it's got that little bit of the cadmium yellow there, just so it doesn't look like it's monochrome when contrasted with the rest of the picture. Now we're moving into the front, all the flowers at the front. A little bit of a puzzle whether to go the same colours as the background flowers, and I thought no, because then they would sort of like sink in together and you couldn't, I'd like to have them better defined. So I went for warmer pinks this time, and you can see I'm using the rose carmine here, a bit of fuchsia, and I'm using madder to bring out some of the darker areas. Again, these ones right at the back, I'm smudging in and looking a little bit out of focus, so that the flowers right at the front will look more in focus. I think I'm also using a bit of dark flesh there, just in a few little spots too. There you go, there's the dark flesh. The stamens I've coloured in with, I think it might have been the Indian red, and I think it's cadmium mortome, sorry, it's MORTW double, so 2 U's, M. and I did the little heads of the stamens there. Now I've moved into the front. Now the problem I found with the front is, particularly on that left hand side, the petals weren't very well defined, and yet I wanted it to look crisp and defined. So I had to use my imagination a bit and really concentrate on where the lights and the darks were, so that I could make a nice sharp contrasting white areas and pink areas using the same colours as I've just used before on the slightly more out of focus background ones. There we go, I'm using the Polychromos white. I'm creating a lot of sharp contrast, so instead of it being sort of like a gentle gradient between the pinks and the white, it's more sharp to make it look like it's in focus. I originally thought of making these flowers very pink, but then I thought, you know, they're sort of more white than pink. So I thought, well, I'll go for the medium and make them white with a very pinkish hue to them. They've got the flower underneath the butterfly there, and popping in the shadows again, making sure that there's a lot of sharp contrast there so it looks like it's quite right up the front. The stamens themselves, there's not much detail that you can see in them in the grayscale, so I decided I'd colour them light, but I'd give them a little shadow along the right hand side there, or the underneath of them, to make the stamens pop out a bit more. Even though in the grayscale picture you don't really see them very well, I wanted them to be more defined, as this is supposed to be the sharp. And there we go, I'm putting in the darker shadow underneath the stamen and throwing in a bit of white at the top. Doing that last flower, that's very much in shadow, so I'm not worrying so much about the white now, but going for the darker pink colours. I'm popping in a bit of, I think I went, the madder was the darkest that I went in with these flowers, using more of the dark flesh and the rose carmine. I want to throw several different colours in here. You don't just want to colour in with the one colour, because if you do, it's going to look very flat and like just flat colours without any real light. So you want to put in a variety of different colours. I think that very deeper area inside the cup of the flower, I think I used red violet there just to give it its darkest shadows. Right, I'm just about finished this picture now. I'm doing a bit of overall blending. I'm using a bit of the Prismacolor again because it's such an opaque white, just to bring out the whitest areas. There's the finished picture. A lot of fun to do. As you can see, close up it doesn't look nearly exciting as it does when you see it all the way out here. Well, I hope you enjoyed this with all of your current colouring adventures, and happy colouring. Hope you're enjoying any colouring adventures that you are currently on, and until next time, happy colouring!